Hi, I'm Dave Waddell. I've worked for the past 30 years helping schools improve the environmental health and safety of their science, art, and technology programs. As an offshoot of this, I've helped amateur and professional artists stay healthy and protect the environment while creating vibrant art.
Welcome back to the Art Hazards Toxicology module. This is part 8, and here we'll be talking about ventilation in your art studio. So when you look at our hierarchy of protection that we've talked about in prior modules, we'll find that if you can't avoid working with toxic stuff, or if you can't find less hazardous stuff to work with, then the next best option is to move those toxic vapors or dusts or whatever other toxic exposures away from you. How do we do that? Well, the goal is to protect your lungs from toxic dusts and vapors. You could try holding your breath the entire time you're in the studio, but that really doesn't seem to work too well for most people. So what should you watch out for? Well, one thing is if you're working with solvents, these things evaporate. They're designed to evaporate quickly. They tend to be volatile and leave behind whatever you were trying to dissolve. The more volatile they are, the faster they're going to get into your airspace. If you're working with aerosols, one of the things you will find is that the droplets are very, very, very tiny, which means a lot of surface area, which means the solvents that are in those aerosols are going to evaporate very rapidly, which greatly increases your risk of inhaling them. And then there's also fine dust. Why should you worry about fine dust? Why do people snort cocaine? Because if they want to get the chemical out of the white powder into their bloodstream quickly, inhaling it seems to work very well. Well, the same is true for any of the toxic product that you've got that's in a dust form. It's easily inhaled, and dust, once they're suspended in the air, tend to stay suspended for a long time. And if they get on the floor and you walk through, will easily resuspend into your breathing zone. So you want to be very careful with fine powders like these encaustic pigments. They're very easy to inhale and they're tough to avoid. What kind of ventilation can you use? Well, there's dilution ventilation. That's really not designed for toxins. For most artists, the idea of dilution ventilation is to open a window. The air in your studio is not really smart enough to know that it's supposed to run outside when it's toxic, so this is only modestly effective. Far better is to get a fan in that window, and that starts functioning as what we call local exhaust ventilation. What you want in the local exhaust airflow is you want clean air coming towards your back, and then whatever process you're using that generates toxic dusts or vapors, and something that's pulling that clean air past your back, past you, past the toxic stuff, and sucking that toxic pollution away from you and directly outside. I've seen artist studios with very inexpensive local exhaust setups. Can't guarantee that this actually works well, but the artist says that she can see all the smoke from the processes she's doing heading right up and out. And that is a good indication that it may be helping reduce her exposures. There are indoor air cleaners that run air from wherever you're working by fan through a particulate filter, sometimes with charcoal filters added in to pull out solvents. You need to remember to change the filters for these things, and they can be quite expensive, many hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars. One of the things you should avoid buying when you're looking for air purifiers are ozone generators. Ozone generators pose a serious risk to your lungs because they generate ozone, which acts as a free radical in your lungs and can cause a great deal of health problems. They're not for a place where people are. Don't buy these things for your studio. The layout of your studio can really impact your ability to control those toxic exposures. If you're in one like this one with no windows to open or source of ventilation, then any exposures you're getting from solvent vapors, you're going to be inhaling. This could be from drying thinners or even dryers that are used inside of the paints themselves, and from your brushes. So in this case, how could this artist improve her air quality? Well, one of the things she could do is she could close her containers when they're not in use. And another thing she could do is get a fan set up in that window with some type of a hood over top of the area where she's working that still allows her to use her paints, but it also will pull any of those vapors that are evaporating directly outside and get them out of there. It's very hard to do. There's a lot of challenges. Sometimes the location by the window is not the best place to work. Maybe you're working on multiple projects. Maybe if you're pulling fresh air into your studio, it's not heated and you're working in Minnesota, you could be freezing from it. And you may find that safer alternatives don't work for you, in which case personal protective equipment may be your only hope. But basically, you do what you can with what you have as far as your studio space. Welcome back to the Art Hazards Toxicology modules. This is part 9, where we're talking about personal protective equipment. Of all the ways to protect yourself from getting exposed to toxic materials, putting a barrier between the toxic stuff and you is considered the least effective, but if it's the only method you've really got available, it is one that we recommend that you consider using. Basically, what you're looking at is either blocking materials from coming in contact with you or filtering the air before it enters your lungs. If you're going to try to do that, avoid using one-strap dust masks. These dust masks do not really filter out particles as well as a higher quality filtration system. What you want to use is a 2-strap N95 rated dust mask. Look for the number 95 on the mask. It could either be R95 or N95. Or you can use a half-mask cartridge respirator like the one shown on the right with proper filters. You need to make sure these things fit tightly, or else the air is going to take the path of least resistance, which will be around the perimeter, usually right along the edges of your nose. If you have a very thick beard, you will find that these don't work very well.
To learn more about chemical hazards in schools, visit doh.wa.gov/school environment.